Okay, welcome back. We're going to be talking about Measure 114 in Oregon. Measure 114 was on the ballot in Oregon as an initiated state statute on November 8th, 2022. It was passed, it was voter approved by a very, very small margin. And I want to talk about where it was at that point and where it is now. So here comes an update. So what does this measure mean for the Second Amendment and for people who actually care about their Second Amendment rights and their firearms? Well, this measure requires permits issued by local law enforcement to buy a firearm. It requires photo ID, fingerprints, safety training, criminal background check, and a fee payment to apply for a permit, and prohibits manufacturing, importing, purchasing, selling, possessing, using and transferring ammunition, magazines capable of holding more than 10 rounds. Now, what do you get as a citizen if you do violate that? You get a Class A misdemeanor, up to 364 days in jail, and like a $6,000 fine. So in the past, Oregon has been pretty close to California in the sense that it is becoming a slave state, as California is now currently a slave state when it comes to infringements on your rights and your ability to protect yourself and your family. Now, when you look at this just on face value, you might say, well, yeah, okay, a permit. That should be easy enough. You get a concealed carry permit. What's the big deal? Well, the big deal with this is that you need a permit to buy a firearm, not just to conceal one, but to buy one. And the big deal here in Oregon is that we do not have the capacity, the capability, the local law enforcement to be able to provide that service for anyone at any time. It could take up to 2 years is the estimated timeline for something like that in order to get the officers, to get the staff, the personnel, the people to be able to help with the documentation, the training, to get thousands and thousands of people through in order to purchase a firearm. You might say, "Oh, okay, well that doesn't sound too great, but I can deal with that." Fine, you can deal with that. All right. So there's 2 years for you before you can purchase your firearm. And if you already have firearms, you're probably like, whatever. I've exhausted my time with firearms. I have as many as I want. Okay, well, fine. If anything, this should upset you because it is violating the rights of everybody else. Well, let's continue on. So, safety training, criminal background check, and fee payment to apply for a permit. Now you have to give money to the state in order to buy a firearm for yourself. I mean, obviously that is a direct infringement of your Second Amendment right, for one. So there's that. And then safety training, criminal background check. Okay, I can get behind safety training. I think that's pretty cool. I kind of geek out on that. Safety training, firearms training. Let's get in the field and do, like, tactical handgun training and just, behind barrels and doing some flips and stuff. Probably not with a firearm, but you know what I mean. I think that stuff's cool. But as a requirement to own a firearm, it's a right. That shouldn't be a requirement. That is a right. And so, to spare you from my frustration on camera here, we'll move on from the firearms end of this measure and move directly into the magazine portion. So they are trying to institute and apply to everyone the direct restriction of owning a standard capacity magazine for an AR type rifle or an AK type rifle. Now, this could infringe on other things, such as this, Glock. Well, this particular one holds 13 rounds. The Glock that takes 40 Smith & Wesson. So, some of you 9mm guys are like, yeah, it takes standard 15. Well, this one takes 13. But this one here takes 27. So this 27 round, yeah, if this measure holds water, who knows? This could be 364 days in jail and a $6,000 fine. So it's not just for the AR guys or the AK guys. Now this is going into the pistol world as well. And you might say, well, you just told us it was voter approved on November 8th. Well, Something happened. Actually, a few things happened. There were many lawsuits, and consequently, that measure was blocked. The first lawsuit came to us by the mighty Oregon Firearms Federation and Sherman County Sheriff Brad Lorry. And they were going to make a determination on whether the initiative violates the U.S. Constitution's Second Amendment, obviously. Okay, and then the second lawsuit came to us by Gun Owners of America, GOA. Glyph Asmussen and Joseph Arnold were the plaintiffs, and they argued that the law violates state constitution's right to bear arms and should not take effect. First lawsuit was filed on November 18th, 2022. Now, on November 24th, the plaintiffs also filed an emergency motion for a temporary restraining order and preliminary injunction, and that held this off until December 8th. Now here we are, March 5th. So what happened in between? Well, on December 2nd, the second lawsuit by GOA, handled in Harney County Circuit Court, the Oregon Department of Justice informed Judge Emmergut that they were seeking postponement of the permit provisions for Measure 114. And so, again, they delayed and postponed until February. So they wanted to push it out 2 months. And the statement included that at that time, that everyone would be required to have a permit in order to purchase a firearm. Now, on that same day, Harney County Circuit Court Judge Robert Rascio blocked with a ruling the entire law from going into effect. And here's what he wrote. Here's his quote. Deprivation of fundamental constitutional rights for any period constitutes irreparable harm. Okay, all right. And then the Oregon Department of Justice actually petitioned the Oregon Supreme Court for a review of the case immediately. The Oregon Supreme Court denied this initially, but on December 15th, Judge Rascio granted a preliminary injunction against Measure 114's prohibition on magazine restrictions of that 10 rounds or more. Now, on February 9th, the Oregon Supreme Court was tasked with the Attorney General's petition to overturn Judge Rascio's ruling, and they denied that. So here's what they said. It is the role of the judicial branch of government to resolve disputes such as challenges to laws enacted by the legislative branch, which includes the people exercising their initiative power. That resolution is underway in the trial court. Our only determination today is that now is not an appropriate time to exercise our authority in mandamus, in connection with the trial court's temporary and preliminary rulings. There were also 21 county sheriffs that released a statement on whether they would enforce this measure, law, or not. Okay, and now that we're all caught up with the basics, let's see what's actually been happening and going on in between all of this. So Measure 114 passed with a 50.7% vote, with voters in 6 out of 36 counties in Oregon supporting it. So that sounds terrible, right? 30 counties are like, yeah, no, we don't want that. We don't want the infringement on our rights. And then so 6 counties, more heavily populated counties that are primarily Democratic or Democrat, let's just call it what it is. They're liberal counties. So and they have the more people condensed into those counties, and so they don't know anything about guns. They just know that they go bang and they're scary, and so they don't want them. They don't want them. And so now we've got 6 counties ruling Oregon, basically, as far as your Second Amendment rights. So this measure is called the Permit to Purchase Law, and now you would need a permit to purchase, and the fee would be $65. You'd complete a firearm safety course at your own expense and submit a photo ID. Then you'll be fingerprinted and have to pass a criminal background check. Now, the fingerprints, the criminal background check, the photo ID, and the fee is pretty common. I mean, if you go to purchase a firearm, especially if you're purchasing it through the FFL, if you buy it online and then you get it shipped to your FFL, and then they say, okay, yeah, $35 or $10 or however much it will cost you to process fee your firearm and get it. There's usually a fee involved with that, but now, I mean, $65, that's kind of double, and I don't like that, but I could do that. So The difficulty here is the completing an approved firearm safety course. Now, I just said before I geek out on that, and that's my personal thing. You shouldn't have to, is the thing. And now, if it was just that, if it was just that, fine, that's okay, whatever. Sure, we can deal with that. That's all right. There's just an extra step now in purchasing a firearm. But again, there's no staff, there's no personnel to do this, and they didn't weigh that out. They didn't measure that in this measure. And so the county sheriffs and the police department, they're like, yeah, we're not going to do that. We don't have the staff, we don't have the money. They would have to flip the bill on that, and they're straight up saying in their statements that they're not going to do that. They don't have the money. And now to get all this set up, again, the estimates were 2 years out. So now you're waiting 2 years to buy that firearm. And that's a lot different than what they're trying to say about this measure. So what you're looking at is a flat out ban for 2 years. You can't purchase a firearm, and you better not be seen with anything that's over 10 rounds. That's what they're saying. In addition, now there is bans associated with this, so that they will ban all sales and transfer of magazines more than 10 rounds within the state. Here's the other thing. Okay, I just said the background check is fine, whatever. We do that all the time with firearms when you buy them. Here's the thing, though. With these background checks, they are going to be more restrictive than the ones that state police currently conduct for gun buyers. You could be denied for being reasonably likely to be a danger. So now it's not only by your record or criminal history, but if you are deemed to be a danger, and that could mean anything. Past pattern of behavior, psychological history. And I don't mean, straight up mental health issues. I'm talking about if somebody says that, yeah, no, he's kind of a rude guy, it's now up to their discretion. The state police can now restrict a buyer if the person was incompetent to stand trial in a court case. For how long ago? I don't know. People change. I know that. But they may not see it that way, and they may say, no, you don't get one. Second Amendment? Nah, we're not doing that here. Here's another thing. Licensed gun dealers who already own larger capacity magazines have 180 days from the day the measure takes effect to sell them. And then they give the option to destroy them. And then they're kind of nice here. They say people who already own the magazines can keep them in a private home or on private property and use them at a shooting range or in a shooting competition, or for recreational purposes such as hunting as allowed by state law. And I know in Oregon we have certain capacity, and it's not a standard capacity, AR rifle capacity when you're out hunting. Now, what are they going to do? Are they going to ask you for your receipts? Or are they going to say, oh, okay, well, you have a lot of these magazines. What were you doing? You get pulled over for, I don't know, speeding or parking in a parking lot, and you're just over the line or something, or maybe you'll roll through a stop sign, and you stop, but then you just keep rolling, and then they berries and cherries in the rear view, and then you have your firearms in a safe environment, a locked environment, maybe a lockbox or something, maybe in your trunk, and you've got, I don't know, 20 of these. And then they're going to ask you for your receipt probably. And if not, is each individual one of these a charge? A Class A misdemeanor? You better hope not. Okay, and then, yeah, since December 8th in Oregon, there has been an explosion in firearm sales. There has been backlogs. There has been just a surge in firearm sales and purchases. And one of the statements from the Chronicle was usually people were purchasing one firearm, but now we are seeing people buy 12 to 24 firearms at a time. And this statement was from Lincoln City Electronic Superstore operator Bruce Pulvey. It's a panic situation. Now, I don't think it's necessarily a panic situation. It's concerned citizens who their Second Amendment right is being pressed against, and so they're saying, no, that's not going to happen. I wanted one, now I'm getting 24 because you're not going to infringe on my Second Amendment rights. That's what's happening. Now, also from this, and this is kind of separate, so I won't go into this too much, but there is a movement, there's a Greater Idaho movement happening, and I think this kind of just took effect and really took off after this Measure 114 because people in Oregon, again, those 30 counties are like, nah, no, we're not going to do this. And so they're like, well, Idaho aligns with our values a lot more than these 6 counties that are running Oregon. And so let's have some discussions here with Idahoans. So is that what you all call yourselves? Leave it in the comments. Idahoans? Yeah, and so local law enforcement would be flipping the bill on this again, and the estimates here that the implementation would cost law enforcement agencies over $49 million annually, with expected permit fees covering 19.5 million. And so they would be covering the rest of that, about approximately what, 30 million. Now again, we're still kind of in that surge, and there are still people who are not getting their firearm because they've been blocked. And so even if the cost was covered and they had staff, I mean adequate staff for a decent amount of people, this would still be a heavy, heavy, heavy wait time right now to get a concealed carry permit. And there's not, I mean, comparatively, there's not a whole lot of people getting their concealed carry in certain counties. And so in Benton County, on a bad day, they're doing probably 5 per day. And so what they've done is they have you schedule and they tell you to schedule your appointment to refresh your concealed carry permit or to obtain a concealed carry permit just in order to get your picture taken and turn in all the paperwork and do that, and then they send it off. They tell you to come in anywhere from 2 to 6 months. They say to schedule that anywhere from 2 to 6 months in advance, and so you can get your spot. So if you're waiting 2 to 6 months for your concealed carry, and there are far more people who own a firearm not for concealed carry, and now they're going to have to, if they want a firearm, if they want to purchase a firearm, now they have to do this course and get this permit. That's not going to happen. It's not going to work. It's going to take a very long time. Okay, so fast forward, February 9th, the Oregon Supreme Court, in an unsigned opinion, turned down a request by Attorney General Ellen Rosenbaum and the Department of Justice to remove the pending challenge. Okay, and then the Elkhorn, there was a news release. They said that it makes it a crime to carry an unholstered handgun while this measure is being blocked. And so they further went on and they said that that means a gun in your car, in your purse, or in your pocket would be a felony. It also makes a trespass with a firearm a felony. That means if you're a hunter, accidentally strays onto private property, you become a felon and you lose your guns. Okay, and here's the latest from Harney County, Oregon. There was new filings in a lawsuit against the state of Oregon for its pending gun control measure involving 3 new case entries. So here's the 3: hearing date, a trial date, and a notice filed. So GOA again is stepping up to the plate, and it's versus Ellen Rosenblum, Terry Davey, and Tina Kotek, the new governor. So the judgment hearing is set for June 16th, 2023, and another filing set for a trial and a legal challenge to Oregon Measure 114 for September 18th through the 25th in 2023. Now, I assume this measure will continue to be blocked in its entirety until that June 16th date at least. And so here's hoping for that. Now, as we wait for all of this and to see if our Second Amendment rights will be trampled on, we stand around with these backlogged background checks. And so if we do try to purchase a firearm, for some of us, it will go through immediately if you're that recognizable or unrecognizable within the system. And for some of us, we are in like a 40,000 person backlog. Now, for me personally, what used to take 45 minutes, sometimes it would go real quick if I was the first person in the queue. It could take a few days to a week to who knows. And so that's kind of the state of things as they stand right now. Now, when things change in Oregon, which they will change, I will keep y'all updated on this and have a more condensed video, and it will be more direct to the exact situation, and so your head won't be spinning as much as everyone else's in Oregon is right now. Thank you for watching. If you made it to the end of the video, thank you so much. That's great. I will put a link in the description down below for new merchandise that I'm starting. And so there's like mugs, survival stuff, performance, shirts, and all kinds of other excellent stuff. And if you watch these videos all the way through, that really helps me a lot with this channel and for this channel to kind of get off the ground a little bit. And also, if you go and check out that store, if there's something that you like, hey, go ahead. I'll leave a 20% discount also in the link. Hope this video helped in some way. Stay safe. Do what's right.